something like cancer that has no cure. You know that you will die. So you have to, and I'm sitting with my 10-year-old daughter clutching my hand, being re-traumatized after fighting for 4 years. Sensitivity means that professionals and medics, when they speak about the beast, my hashtag we all know was the beast must fall. When we speak about the beast, we remember that in the room are warriors. Warriors are still in battle. They're fighting, they're battling. In the room are those who consider themselves conquerors. Conquerors wake up every morning wondering, do I have it? Has it spread? Sensitivity means we remember that in the room are people who are defiant on the face of the beast and have said, I'm going to beat this. So help us. Help us in your sensitivity. Journalists, researchers, medics, help us. Speaking as a recovering journalist, because I keep relapsing, I must say that the beast confronted me and all my guards were down. And suddenly you realize that with all your journalistic knowledge and journalistic defiance, you are not able to face squarely this beast that is eating you. I had a presentation which I have been cut short not to present. My hope is that the guild will invite me again because I walk around with it. But now I'm going to break it down into at least 4 particular aspects. Stigma. What is stigma when it comes to cancer? Why do people fear cancer so much? Why is the C word so feared? Somebody, can you just tell me why you fear cancer so much? Just one answer? One answer, very quickly.
With death.
With death. You do know that you can step out here, God forbid, and be knocked and die. Oh, okay. So it's not death. It's not death. Because you can drink a glass of water and go. It's not death.
It's too painful.
It's too painful. So pain, we experience pain every day, and we know that the pain of a toothache, the pain of childbirth, the pain of, we got pain of heartbreak. Don't we have pain? We have pain all the time. What is the other fear?
Expensive to treat.
Expensive, the money. So we come from societies and communities where we reach out and say, tuanze harambe, let us support, kujeni tuchange. So people fear that, and so they would rather, beloved, as journalists, as colleagues in the media, stigma should not and should never define who we are in how we report cancer. We as journalists must have the nose so much to decipher stigma on cancer and be able to confront it. I have friends whom we call ourselves the one-breasted sisters. I stand before you and I ask you as I stretch out my hands, are you able to tell which breast is fake? I'm one-breasted. Please look again. Please note that this is how stigma is killed. Are you able to tell? Gentlemen, just look, don't fear. The women are looking. It's good, it's all cool. Are you able to tell? Gentlemen, are you able to tell which I'm wearing prosthesis? Are you able to tell, my brother?
No.
Are you able to tell? Are you able to tell? No. Stigma, my beloved colleagues, is when we look at the repercussions of cancer and we build our people to rise above it. So cervical cancer, hysterectomy, they remove the uterus. Does it make you less of a woman?
No.
Are you less of a woman? Does it take away your femininity? So me, they remove a breast, I'm not able to tell you until you guess if you're very good at it, which means I've done a very good job with my prosthesis. Which means that as journalists, we must empower women and tell them, look, there are ways, there are prostheses. You can have the silicone, you can have the padded, there are prostheses, and also people have breast reconstruction and life goes on. One of the most encouraging aspects while I was battling was meeting a young woman, 34, who had a double mastectomy. I had a single one. And she was wearing both prostheses, slaying it like hell down the hospital. And I was like, what? I've never been so in shock, but I've never been so encouraged. Stigma, my beloved. I lost friends, I gained many. I lost friends who didn't think I would be standing here today. They didn't know what to say or how to say it. And I don't belabor the point that I can't blame them. Stigma is the one where people walk around and you have a tag. When you go, they say, Yule. We media have to be bold enough to challenge stigma of cancer. Stigma for me looked like being in hospital early morning doing radiotherapy. I wish I could tell you that the cancer centers are full of only women. I wish I could say that men are not suffering the way women are. I wish I could, but I can't. Stigma to me came in the form of men sneaking into cancer centers without the knowledge of their spouses or their families to have chemo, to have radio. They've never talked to anybody about the fact that they're going through treatment. Stigma for me is being in the chemotherapy room and this gentleman on the other side is doing so badly, and I can hear the doctors telling him, can we call your wife? And he says, no, she doesn't know, you can't call. And he is so sick, and he has been treated for months, and his wife and family do not know. Stigma for me is early morning at radio, when I want to jump into radio at 5:30 or 6, so that I can finish other things. And at that time at 6, I find gentlemen, just like yourselves in your suits and ties, waiting to go for radio. Put on your suit and tie, then stagger to the car and brave the day in the office. Stigma, to me, is the 3 journalists I've been working with last year who've not come out to say that they're battling the beast, but because I know they reached out quietly to say, let me fight this on my own. I can't deal with the stigma. Journalists, stigma is when we are quiet to speak the truth of what the cancer beast is. I want to talk about costs. Point number 2. Cancer got me when I was minding my own business and rising in my own stature as who I am. I am an inspirational speaker. My sister, I try not to be motivational, because motivational will make you jump on the table and dance, and then you walk out and the spirit is gone. Inspiration will touch your heart and soul and trigger something, so your perception is forced to want to change something. So my hope normally is that I veer so much towards inspiration so that people are able to do something. So costs. My first 4 friends who landed in my house after diagnosis, colleagues in the media, all 3 in the media, 1 not, came to my house and sat down and said, Mildred, so you have been diagnosed. We've come to ask for permission to go public, because now we are looking at a bill of 4 million. We don't have it. So we just want permission that we go public and raise funds. And I told my 4 friends, go ahead, go public, speak about it. In saying that, you in the room are part of the, you raised money for me to start treatment, and not worry. When we talk about costs, diagnosis only before I went into, took like 150,000 in a month. How many Kenyans are able to get that? To do tests, to do the biopsies, to go through this one, how many of us are just 100, around 150, that's month 1. We are not even done. We haven't jumped into mastectomy. And then you get into chemotherapy. I had 8 sessions of chemo after every 3 weeks. What I was trying to bring out to the DG is that he knows very well as a doctor that when you start chemo, you can't break it. That it is 3 weeks, you have to hit 3 weeks and go for the next. And hit 3 weeks and go for the next. You're not supposed to break it. So when there is a lull, because there is the strike and cancer patients are being held off, I don't want to imagine, but I'll tell you what happens, because we're on the ground with cancer patients every day. What is making me sad, and I've had to step back, is that we are barring. We are barring. Last month alone, I think we did 3. Radiotherapy, I did my 42 sessions. It's not cheap. Radiotherapy is every day, every day, every day. So I wonder, when we have the strike, Prof, people who are supposed to have radio every day, every day, every day. So they stop, and yet they had been exposed to starting off radio. And then I am on oral treatment for the next 5 years. I'm on year 4. Please pray for me. Tell me, thank you, Mildred, keep going. That is what cancer patients want. I want to repeat that, and I think it's Bros who we've actually talked about warrior stories. One of the worst things you can do for cancer warriors is to bring a warrior story. They don't want a warrior story. Every every day you are staring at your predicament. Marceline, you don't want a woye. You want me to look at you and tell you, my sister, you're going to beat this, and we are fighting, and we are moving. No woye stories. I know I used to even just hang up on calls that were woye calls. I couldn't deal. I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with woye stories. So, my point number 3, I've been wishing. At the moment when I was in active chemo treatment, I had to get something called a chemo pot. Please write it down. Please write it down, because every cancer warrior needs a chemo pot. My wish for media in this country is that we all start a concerted effort to raise money for chemo pots for cancer warriors. Chemo pots, and I had a diagram, you can check it, is I don't have a medical terminology, but it is an instrument or an object that is inserted near the heart. So they make a puncture across your neck and insert this tool towards the heart. The importance of a chemo pot, let me tell you why it's important. If you go to the cancer centers, maybe in Kenyatta or in your home area, in your village area, you find cancer patients lining up. They've been through chemo. Effects of chemo, limbs have collapsed. Limbs have collapsed. So there's nothing else to dunga for them to have the next chemo. Yet 3 weeks have passed and you need chemo. So many cancer warriors go down because limbs have collapsed from chemo. They needed chemo. The doctors, in whatever way, tried what they could to get a vein. I experienced it. They looked for veins all over my head, my feet, everywhere, and veins have collapsed. When you have a chemo pot, I wore a chemo pot for 2 years, I still have the marks. The chemo pot is inserted next to the heart. So all that they have to do every time you have chemo is to just puncture that briefly and have chemo go in. So whether your limbs have collapsed or not collapsed, the chemo pot is working. Beloved, I went to do a bit of research and I found that one media house, once upon a time, Maina Kageni in Kiss FM, did a collection of chemo pots, of money for chemo pots, and I think they managed to support like around 15 or 20 cancer warriors. Inserting a chemo pot and having it costs around 100,000. How many Kenyans have 100,000? I want to tell you, my colleagues in media, that chemo pot is life for cancer warriors, because they need all the time, and not only for chemo, the blood, you're doing your blood works every week for them to check where your blood levels are. And thank you for the support of enabling me to be able to get a chemo pot. Now I come back to ask you in the platforms where you are, if the cancer discourse in the country is still so convoluted in many things, can we ask for chemo pots for every cancer warrior? Just chemo pots for every cancer warrior. It's a plea that I make. So I've had questions, discussions about nutrition, and I reflect on what we at Cancer Must Bow say. We stand out and we say, we urge people to set up ABC feeding centers for cancer warriors. ABC feeding centers, A stands for apples. We advocate so much for green apples. B stands for beetroot and carrots. So we try so much in the simplicity to look at the 3 most basic but most critical ingredients that we want to add. So we say ABC because people say, how do we help? What kind of foods? We say, put apples, beetroots, carrots. Let the warriors take this as they start throughout the day. Let it nourish them. Let them build up, plus the mbogas. I would love to see in the media that we talk so much about Murere, Apoth. We know Murere. I would love so much that instead of sensationalizing the okra water fad, we'd talk about Murenda. In English or in scientific terms, I think it's called the jute malo. It's called the jute malo. The Nigerians call it ewedu. Are we able to talk to our people on this kind of things. Cancer strikes, it affects your family and affects your entire community and clan. So you are not alone in your cancer, because everybody else gets cancer with you because of the stigma and because of the torture that you get. My urge, my push to the media, who are my colleagues, is that we look at cancer with an advocacy perspective. I know it's controversial because the media school where I went, me and my colleague Martin, we were told journalists are not advocates. I refuse totally, because I belong to the generation that will rewrite the rules of journalism without advocacy, so that it is intentional to push deliberate change in our policies, in our perceptions on cancer. We can't win. I reminded the DG about 1987, because those of us who know the history of fighting the HIV/AIDS scourge, when Uganda was shouting about it and we were celebrating Phil Bangoli Lutaya singing and advocating as a musician, Kenya was mum. Kenya was quiet because we didn't want to talk sex education. The government of the day, you remember, he couldn't even say sex. He said, yo kitu, but people were dying. So the reason why I was actually reminding the DG is that if we have our government of the day mouthing it, saying we have a pandemic, and I wanted to correct him and say, I told him, by mouthing it, the strategy changes, the priority changes, the focus shifts. We have called it a pandemic, let's now strategize, all hands on deck. When we don't mouth it, it becomes just yet another disease. I want to end up and say, and I've been on record in other media platforms saying, journalists, ourselves, guilty as charged, do not know that when battling cancer, many of us who choose science go to it focusing on two approaches. We focus on science and we focus on faith. I want to challenge you to try and research the role of faith in fighting the cancer beast. When you have a beast that's bigger than what you can fathom, bigger than the words the doctors tell you, then you have to pull onto something else. And what is that? My rallying call, and it still is, has always been, you can worry or you can trust God, you can't do both. As a warrior, I'm working with and walking with many other warriors who are on their doldrums. You need to infuse in people that if you, my doctor, my oncologist team said, Mildred, you've chosen science, we want you to deal with the faith. Us, we will do our bit in science the best as we can. Now work hard on your faith so that we're able to do it. And I appreciated that so much, that they're able to look at that in retrospect. I want to tell you, beloved, that all of us in the room, like Marceline had just said, 10 of us at the end of the week, the statistics are glaring. We are all candidates for cancer. Doesn't matter what kind of cancer. I know that breast, cervical, and then for the men, prostrate follow each other in terms of how critical. I need you to know that cancer gets you when you're minding your own business. Normally there's no warning. If there was a letter sent to me to tell me, Mildred, in 2020, you're getting the beast, I would have sat and tried to re-strategize. It doesn't give you a warning. So when it comes, then you look at the reality of how you fight it and with whom. So once again, I thank you very much, Editors Guild. I am available, Editors Guild. Every time you want to have conversations around it, Editors Guild. I have a presentation I haven't presented, Editors Guild. I am hopeful that we are able to do that. And I appreciate you very much, Madam President. And we are supporting the work of the Guild because the voice of media is critical in this person. Thank you.
A round of applause for Mildred. Thank you so much. Mildred, that is the presentation you've already presented.
I haven't.
You have already converted many of us. So you don't need any other presentation. Okay. This is enough.
Okay.
You need just to keep on speaking to us, but we have been converted. Thank you so much. And another round of applause for Mildred. She's one of us, and she's been able to ensure the beast has fallen. So we must know that the beast can fall. So it's not something that we should fear. So it's something we can do. So I think we have done justice to this at this session. I want to believe we've done justice. And it's only that when these are conversations that we shall keep having over and over again, since we are all passionate. You can see the room is not even, it is almost the same way we entered here. Guys, this seems to be a very interesting thing. Otherwise, all of us, this room would have been half empty. But I think we have done well. So thank you very much. I think at this point, I'll call on Linda to give us a vote of thanks so that we can be able to finalize this session and we'll be able to carry on with the conversation. So Linda, karibu sana.
Asante sana Martin. Do you have someone with a burning question for Mildred? I know time is up, but give room for one or two. Or even a comment?
I can call you appreciate.
Okay, there are three, so I'll just take those three. Let me start with.
I think the only thing we can say is to appreciate Mildred. We've worked together, and I appreciate that Mildred is coming up with the diction, the lexicon for cancer, the language. So thank you, and I think that's a conversation that we will continue. The way she's outlining the terms and the sensitivity in reporting cancer. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Who else did you point out?
So this time.
When she said comment, I said I must stand up and comment because Millie, my small sister, indeed you are an inspiration to many of us. You may not know that. I follow you on YouTube. I listen to your talks and you inspire so many of us. We may not keep saying that, but you are an inspiration, and that's where I'll just say that and say thank you because you inspire so many of us. Because even if I stand here and I don't have cancer, I have a brother who has prostate. Yeah. I have a cousin who has breast cancer. So we have the cancer in our community. So as you say, that even if the entire family walks with you, so they are sick with you. So let's work together. Thank you for the inspiring words, and even to continue to support one another in this fight against the beast. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So we are taking two more, but kindly keep it brief. 1 minute, less than a minute.
Mine will be very brief.
Sure.
I was among the first people to call Millie. Na wakati nilimpigia simu niambia haya, hiyo kitu imeshindwa. You know, she was so down. Hiyo kitu imeshindwa Millie. Thanks for staying strong. Today, at around 5:30, I received a phone call from Eldoret. My uncle had been turned away from Moi Referral Hospital and is suffering from cancer of the colon. He has been told doctors are on strike and therefore will only be attended to on Tuesday. Remember, he's in stage 4. You can imagine. Mildred, please pray for him. How I wish I'll give you the number so that you call him and tell him, mambo yatakuwa sawa. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you to all the speakers, and definitely Mildred is when we hear from scientists like Prof and the DG, so that's the scientific part of it, the academic and all that. But it's people like you who bring now the stories home. You know, we feel the journey, we feel the struggles and all that. And I must say, yes, I'm inspired, you know. And the challenge I have as a journalist is always like, what do I stand for? So in the newsrooms, we know very well, we run around for so many things. It's politics and everything, and every day something is coming and then you forget about what you're following up on and all that. But a time comes after being in this industry for very long, let me put it that way, that I feel like you have to make a stand.
Yeah.
Are you gonna stand and say, I'm gonna follow the issue of cancer, because then the health is very wide, and stand for that and push the agenda, and you said becoming an advocate. So it's something I'm also learning, like, as a journalist, you can't just tell stories, you have to stand for something. Yeah, so thank you for sharing your story. If I could just ask Prof one question, what's the connection between cancer and sugar? Because I talked to an oncologist recently, and he did mention about there could be a connection there, if possible.
So what I'm seeing from this discussion is that health seems to be a very hot topic. Is it hot topic, or there's so much, and it looks like we can't exhaust it all today. Say that again?
In contact with their various platforms in the media.
Yeah, sure. So, Olale, is it so burning?
Oh yes. You know, it's raining outside, so here it's burning.
Please make it brief, like Wanyama.
Asante sana. Mine is very brief, as you said, you want me to be brief. By the time I was sleeping last night, I was not sure I was going to commit myself. Because cancer is a very, very serious, very emotive issue. But I think I prayed and God to become over, scare what is happening. So since I've been here, I can say thanks to the Guild and even our speakers, we have been more enlightened than ever before. And I think we need to take this forum even further and more to the grassroots. Many people are suffering because of the issue of fear, stigma, and related matters. So I'm just encouraging the organizers to take this thing even further down to people who are suffering and the needs are that help. Thank you.
So I'll give Prof to answer the question from, remind me your name again? Marie. Yes, to answer Marie. But there's a suggestion that as media houses, we can also use this opportunity when you meet the newsmakers at such forums. You can take the contacts and invite them to your stations, and they can educate Kenyans a lot. Yeah. So let me give.
Oh, thank you for that question. I've seen it a lot on social media, WhatsApp groups. Said you don't take sugar, take sugar. And because I'm a scientist, if there's no evidence, then it doesn't exist. I have not seen any research showing that people who took sugar got this type of cancer. And you know, we talk about cancer the way people talk about Africans, like it's one thing. Because we say the cancer in the eye, even that cancer in the uterus, the different cells, the way it differentiates, they're different. And the causative agents, some are infectious, some are environmental, some are unknown. So I haven't seen, personally, I do not know of any data that sugar will or will not. If you're diabetic, then control your sugar, isn't it? And then if you take sugars, brush your teeth. Those are the things I know.
So thank you so much. Marie, you're satisfied? Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much. It's been a great afternoon. And as I said before, I'm just realizing health is a very burning issue. At the Kenya Editors Guild, I chair the programs committee, and we recently proposed that we do a press club on health, invite health CS, and clearly from the talks we've been having this afternoon, I'm vindicated that it's an issue, there's so much to discuss. And once again, when we get to organize such a press club, we're inviting all of you to attend. And at this point, let me take the opportunity to thank our chief guest, Professor Nelly. Thank you so much for honoring the invite and for the insights you've shared. Thank you so much. We've learned a lot. And also thanking Dr. Patrick Amoth in his absence. I thank our president, Madam Zubeida. Thank you so much for your time and for the input that has made this gathering possible. The CEO, thank you so much. News of the day. He gave us the inside take. He said the pace. Yeah, we are very appreciative of the food. And is there some more left? We can indulge after this?
We still have more food.
Yeah, so you're free to indulge. Hope I didn't forget anyone. Our programs guy, Ken, asante sana. And the moderator of the day, Mato. Mato is in the programs committee. Namshukuru sana, he's done a good job moderating. And to all our guests, Maslin, karibu sana. Yeah. So thank you so much. You can have some food and leave at your pleasure. Asanteni.